Punjab river waters are being diverted, Punjab is slowly going to become a desert. In 1982, we had the Asian Games. During them games, all Sikhs, including VIPs, so top people in the army and the civil service, they too were stopped and searched. Sikhs felt criminalized and humiliated. Further, in the neighbouring states of Punjab, Haryana, which used to be part of Punjab, and Rajasthan, organised genocide began of Sikhs. So that was a brief background, but really puts in context that there was a huge peaceful movement, that people were asking for fundamental rights, rights that were given to every other part of India, but were denied to people of Punjab. And despite all these years of peacefully protesting and using reason, they were in fact faced by sects who were openly disrespectful to Sahib Sri Guru Granth Sahib in a manner so that Sikhs would be, well, how's the best word to describe it, that Sikhs would really come forward and react. However, Sikhs were peaceful, and in fact that even Tera Singhs were Shaheed. It took a long time. Sikhs kept saying, we just need justice and we want these people brought to court, and they were not. During that period, if we reflect back now and we go on to the next part about demonisation of certain individuals, it was in the late 70s a young man came to the front and started preaching to the masses. He had huge charisma, and this charisma drew large crowds. And his voice was very simple, and his movement which he started was basically saying to Sikhs and non-Sikhs that stay away from alcohol, tobacco, drugs. Instead, read Gurbani and find self-respect. His message was of peace and harmony. This person was known as Baba Jarnail Singh Bhindranwale. And while looking at that period, I even come across reports on the internet and from press at that time, and they were saying in Punjab, the number of the sales of blue movies went down, the sales of drugs went down, the sales of alcohol went down. Instead, people went back to their jobs, whether they're living in the villages, whether they're living in the cities. They started working harder. The GDP of Punjab went up. As a result of people were far more prosperous in Punjab. And because they saw that this person was leading us down a positive way, they with pyar started referring to him as Santji. However, the press at that time was not a free press as there is today. Even in UK, we have a press, but most of our press is controlled by News Corporation and really run by an Australian. Similarly, at that time, here in UK have free press. In India you've got free private channels, East Hindu, called Lala Jagat Narayan. All the other press was controlled by the state media, such as Doordarshan. Both of these groups, especially Lala Jagat Narayan, was extremely wary of this huge popularity that this young man was getting. And because that was the same people that were saying to the people of Punjab, reject Punjabi and say that you want to speak Hindi here and we want to turn it into a Hindu nation, that what Baba Jarnail Singh was doing was really a feat. So really, when I was looking at that speech is changed. Because at a pivotal point, Baba Jarnail Singh had a lot of pyar with him and really respected by Fauja Singh. And then really painful for Sikhs to hear when they were taunting him about what was happening at that time. So at that time, Baba Jarnail Singh, he himself, not only talked about dharmic things, but then openly started talking about human rights abuses. So really, I would also class him as a human rights activist. And really, if we look at his speeches at that time, he mentioned this time and time again. And I'll refer to one of his speeches, so we can get an idea of what was happening at that time. He says, by February 1983, 113 Sikh youth, these are Sikh students, have been killed in police cells. So that was by February 1983. Then he says, by July of that same year, in 1983, that number has now risen to 140. And then he says, by the end of this year, that number has risen to 200. So 200 Sikh youth students had been killed in police cells. At the same time, a further 2,000 have returned from police stations as cripples. So he started openly speaking against these human rights abuses that were happening to Sikh students, who were basically asking for the Punjabi Suba. It was under these circumstances that Baba Jarnail Singh openly started saying to people that if people are coming to attack you, people are coming to kill you, whether they be Nirnkaris or anyone else who's bent on mischief, that you should not give up your Qurban and you should stand there and defend yourself. And it was often these quotes that he was then saying at this time, people started taking them out of context and started showing him as a dangerous individual. Was he really a dangerous individual? Again, let's look. On the 20th of September in 1981, at Chowk Mehta, an incident happened. Police fired upon Sikhs there. They killed 18 of them. Rather than asking Sikhs to go out there and retaliate, he just said that we want a judicial inquiry into the matter and punishment for all them that are guilty of killing these innocent Sikhs. So these are not really the voice of someone who's an extreme person. However, right-wing media barons like Lala Jagat Narayan caused hysteria and spreading malicious lies about Sandhi. MPs from India who were quite amazed and who were quite fearful of what has been reported actually went to Amritsar and spoke to Baba Jarnail Singh at that time. And then they went back and said, much of this is lies. This person is a fairly reasonable person. And we can't understand how these things are being printed here. And we really look at this because we think, can this really happen? And we look at this. Recently we had the Iraq War. Before the Iraq War, the majority of us in the world were told via the media and via self-interested people that there's weapons of mass destruction in Iraq and therefore the army has to go in. And reality is, in hindsight, we look back and there were no weapons of mass destruction. So it goes to show how media, even innocently themselves, can be whipped into creating these emotions and we can have a wrong impression. And I believe a similar thing was done at that time in Punjab. And this was done by right-wing Hindu media barons, the Nirnkaris themselves, and even Indira Gandhi, to create a demonization of this individual. So let's look at this. Let's look at a fact, something I've just come across quite easily while searching the internet. Now, next to Punjab, near Punjab, is another state in India called UP. This state is slightly larger, but let's compare. And this is taken from a Punjab government document, a secret document that was circulated. And it said in the year 1980, because we're comparing homicide rates now, so we're looking at how much lawlessness was there really there. Because when we read books, we say that anarchy was in Punjab in between 1980 and 1984. So let's dissect this. In this own Punjab government document, it says, in 1980, there were 5,422 murders, homicides in UP. And in 1981, there were 5,068 homicides in UP. So that's what's happening in UP. So you're looking at around 5,000. Compare that to Punjab. In Punjab in 1980, there were 620 murders. And in 1981, there were 544. A dramatic difference. On one side, you have 5,000. On the other side, you have less. You have 600 or 500. And it's quite noteworthy. If this is the case, why was all this attention put on Punjab? Surely a lot more lawlessness was happening in UP, and all this attention by the governments and the media should be on UP. So really, even further on that white paper, it says, in all them cases, only 11 of them cases, of them 544, can be directly linked to people of Sikh appearance, in other words, people who have a beard and a turban. So really, dramatically, statistics show that there was a media campaign and people are being whipped up, and the reality of statistics show that the situation in UP was a lot worse than the situation in Punjab. Responding to this propaganda, Sant Jarnail Singh Bhindranwala said, even if someone's dog or cat dies, they blame it on me. They say Bhindranwala's done it. So really, we were looking at, reflecting at that time. Babaji's buses were burned, Guru Sahib's Swarups were in them buses and they were desecrated. Sikhs were being killed and arrested. Sikhs had no response to this intense media propaganda campaign against them because they had no press. Even today, this is one of the things that Sikh community convicted of any crime.